Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Melissa Reaves, and I am in Seattle, Washington. And I am a storyteller. So I go out and tell stories on moths and different shows and whatnot. But I'm also, I have a couple of companies that I use storytelling as the basis. So I have one company that's called Story Fruition, and it's essentially an opportunity for me to help business people become better storytellers in their worlds. Like they might be going up for an investor pitch and they need stories to make it more captivating and not just a bunch of numbers and pie charts. So I do that a lot. I work with Founders Live, and I work with just a lot of different organizations and associations, talking about the power of storytelling as an essential business skill. Love it. The other business that I have found myself in is a project of so much love. It stemmed from watching the George Floyd and the Breonna Taylor and the Aubrey Abram murders and realizing that that is horrifying and awful. And how can we be so cruel to each other simply based on our skin color? And I realized that we can take storytelling and educate, we know that, but also to even open hearts so that maybe we can change, right? And so we started a platform that amplifies the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color and allows them to have a space where they can tell true stories. And I help curate them. I help, guide them so that they're really, really tight, beautiful stories. And the show's called Melanin Stories Matter. And we've done a few shows now. We've done 3 so far, and we have 4 on the docket for 2021, as well as started partnering with a couple of other storytelling organizations that also had that same idea, like how can we help BIPOC voices get heard? And so I partnered with 1,000 Cuts here in Seattle, as well as Story Jam in Chicago, and we're doing shows called Rise Up. And again, we all have melanin. That's the point. We all have melanin, and we should be celebrating our diversity and our inclusion. And so using storytelling and music to do that, that's the mission, to help open the hearts. I try to focus on the aha, that moment. And I think we all do. That's what we're taught. It's like, what happened that changed you? Right? That's what I want. But I want to focus on stories that actually not just changed me, but they're something that's universal that people could all relate to, right? There's tons of things. There's some things like I can't relate to, being in jail. I can't tell that story, but a storyteller can tell me their story and I can relate to it and, hope I never end up in that space. But I can tell a story that is no longer a wound. It's a scar. And I can start finally, after 5 years, start telling my divorce story. And that's a story that everyone who's ever been through that leans into, like, oh, tell me yours. How was yours? How much weight did you lose? How much weight did you gain? Like we have this like club. It's like we're in the divorce club. And so to formulate that story, or a story of, getting fired, it's horrible. But if I can tell a story of like a moment where I just totally became a loser, it did not work out. It was horrible that day, but what happened that changed me and how did I come through it? Those become inspirational stories. And so that's what I look for, is like the stories that can inspire others and not feel so bad being by themselves. Newbies, trust you have stories. I hear that a lot. Like, I don't have anything to talk about. And you do. You have tons of stories. And one of the best tips that I learned when I first started studying the art of storytelling, which was January of 2019, not even that long ago, I was taught, get up every morning and write for 5 minutes. Just don't stop that pen, just let it go, because there's a story that's trying to come out. It's trying to come out and you're going to use it at some point. Allow it to come out. I once wrote a story. I started writing and I was challenged to write a comedic piece for a show in a week. And I got up and I started writing, and I was writing about cicadas. I'm like, why am I writing about cicadas? And I was writing in detail about cicadas. Turns out that ended up being a giant metaphor for the story that I ended up telling on stage. So don't question it. You're a channel at that point. Enjoy the ride. For the senior storytellers, I hope you're enjoying the ride, because I know you know what I'm talking about when all of a sudden that pen's just moving and you're just, it's coming out of you. And I love that. I love, and I think it's important for the senior storytellers to remember to always show, don't tell. Sometimes we still get stuck in that. We'll have a dialogue with another character and we'll be saying, and then he said this to me, and then she said that to me, and then I said that to them. Whereas if you could step into the scene and become more of the characters, I'm not talking about overacting, but just giving us a differentiation of the two voices are talking, they're having an argument, we're feeling the heat because you're showing us that conversation. You're going to step back and be narrative again, but let's see a little more textures in storytelling when you can, because it's so much fun to do, but it's so much fun for the audience. Show, don't tell.